Welcome to Athens City Council. It's Monday, March 1st, 2021. And tonight we have a different format for our City Council meeting in that we will have a public forum first, and we will adjourn from that, and then the council will go into their regular session and briefly have an executive session. And then we will come back to our full business meeting. So we'll walk you through each of those steps and let you know ahead of time what we'll be doing. But do know that when we do go into executive session, which will probably only be 10 to 15 minutes, we will be coming back to the regular session, and you can stay tuned and hear the rest of all of our meeting tonight. So the first item is our public session hearing for Union Street Downtown Redevelopment District, and this links two of our ordinances, one which was passed earlier this year in October of 2020. It was Ordinance 10520, and that was declaring the Siemens grocery store building at 305 West Union Street as a local historic designation. And this then ties to an ordinance that we will be discussing tonight, 2821, which will be declaring that district then. And so if Council Member Fall, as Chair of Planning Commission, would lead us through some of this discussion.
Great, thank you. Just a quick background on what a DRD is. It's a relatively new tool that the state of Ohio has developed to help economic development in areas that have historic designated buildings or areas and the area around it. So the idea is to have investment of capital that at the same time also helps to preserve the historic area or building. And so once the DRD is like a TIF. It looks at the tax base, and then all the assessed value that increases because of the development, that increase goes back into the area to help develop that area as in economic development terms. That extra money, it's not a raise in taxes, it's just that they get that amount back, and it's like what we do on State Street. The area can be a mix of mixed use, commercial, but not 100% residential. So it really is a mixed use sort of tool that can be really useful in Athens. The funds that are brought together can do one of five things: historic renovation for those buildings that are ID'd as the historic, the anchor. Cider House is one of our historic designated buildings, and that one anchors another one. So they would be able to qualify for historic renovation funds. There's loans to other business people, funds to increase public infrastructure. And so there's a lot of different tools that can be used with this money that's brought together. So we do two that have already been okayed by the City Council. The one that has the Cider House as the center, and then the other one, which is Depot, the railroad depot. So with that, I'd like to open up the public hearing, and if anybody has any questions, comments, thank you.
And we'll give the opportunity for any council members or administration if they have any comments to make. Okay. And Councilmember Reisner.
Yes, Councilmember Fall, if and when all this gets passed and signed by the mayor, how quickly does it take effect? When will the area start seeing redevelopment?
Well, Mayor, can you help? I think that because of the pots of money, it does have a lag time because you are trying to increase the assessed value for the tax. And so it has to develop a bit to get those increase taxes to reinvest. So, Mayor?
Yeah, so as Councilmember Fall indicated, Member Reisner, it's these types of TIFs, a DRD can run for 10 years. And it's a 70% capture over that 10-year period of time of increased valuation of properties within, and it would be all properties within that defined area that cannot exceed, I believe it's 10 acres.
10 acres.
That it cannot exceed 10 acres. The collection would likely not start until 2022, and possibly not even start on this one until 2023, to where we'd start to see revenue coming in into that particular DRD. The same holds true for the current DRDs. That money, I don't believe we are going to start to see until 2021, I believe, but that may have already started, 2022, but it may have already started this year. It's a longer process than you think. And when you say development, you know, I'll use this DRD, this particular proposal, as an example, that there's currently development going on within this DRD footprint with Ohio Health's new building. And so what was a non-yielding or very small yielding property tax coming in for a vacant lot, and when that property gets reassessed under this DRD, we'll see an increase because of this new build out that Ohio Health is going through the process of right now.
Thank you.
Other questions? Any in the audience? Do you see any, Chris?
I don't.
Okay, great.
If we don't have any other, then I think we could adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Fall. So let's say that the public hearing for this Union Street Downtown Redevelopment District is closed at 7:08 p.m. And we're now opening our regular session of business. The first item is to establish a quorum, and all members of council are present. Our next item of business, as we explained earlier, is going to be an executive session. This means that the council members and those identified within the administration will be in a separate meeting, probably no more than 10 or 15 minutes, and then we will return to the regular session. So what we do when we do the executive session is we will have a motion from one of the council members and a second, and then I do a roll call vote of the council members. We will then exit this meeting, and we will, after we finish with the executive session, return to this regular session. So if I could have a motion for entering into executive session.
For the purpose.
And you need to, Beth, you will need to state the purpose of it and the persons to be included in the meeting, such as the auditor, the service safety director, and the mayor. So you need to say that all in one sentence. I move that we go into executive session for.
Okay. Please remind me what exactly we're doing. I know who's coming.
You're moving to go into executive session for the purpose of imminent litigation.
Okay, thank you. I move that we move into executive session for the purpose of imminent litigation, and that session will include Mayor Pedersen, Auditor Hecht, Safety Services Director Pyle, and the members, Law Director Eliason, Clerk of Council Walker, and the members of council.
No, she won't. Clerk of Council Walker will not be.
Okay.
So you've named the auditor, the service safety director, and the mayor, and the law director, and all members of council. And Law Director Eliason, I saw you motioning. Was there anything else that we need to include in the motion?
No, I think I would have called it imminent court action, but imminent litigation is fine.
Okay. Thank you. And do we have a
Second.
second from Councilmember Fall for the motion? And I do see that Mayor Patterson is asking for a comment. Yes?
So I think we would like to also include the acting director at Engineering and Public Works to be a part of this executive session, please.
Okay, so I should have also mentioned acting director of the Department of Public Works, Jessica Adine.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I did not see her, and you did mention that earlier. Yes. And we have a second, so now I'll do the roll call vote. Councilmember Smedley?
Aye.
Councilmember Reisner?
Aye.
Councilmember Crowell?
Aye.
Councilmember Fall?
Aye.
Councilmember Katsas?
Aye.
Councilmember Grace?
Aye.
Councilmember Clodfelter?
Aye.
All right. So if you will all go to if council members and those designated will go to the other site, and we will be back shortly. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Jeff.
Can you hear me? I can hear you. I can't find Chris's meeting. For pity's sakes.
Yeah, she didn't share the link with us, I don't believe, Jeff, so I'm not sure. You might have to send her a text.
Be sure.
Good.
We need Jeff Reisner.
We need Jeff. Yep. There's Jeff. Okay. We have returned, and if we could now have a motion to exit our executive session.
So moved.
That's moved by Councilmember Fall, seconded by Councilmember Grace. And I will do the roll call vote once more to come out of executive session. Councilmember Smedley.
She signaled yes with her hand.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I didn't see it. Councilmember Reisner.
Aye.
Councilmember Crowell.
Aye.
Councilmember Fall.
Aye.
Councilmember Katsas.
Aye.
Councilmember Grace.
Aye.
And Councilmember Clodfelter.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. We've now returned into our regular session, and our next item of business is disposition of the minutes. If we could have a motion for
Moved.
accepting this. Councilmember Falls moved, and do we have a second? From
Second.
Councilmember Grace. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Okay, the minutes have been accepted. We now have reports or communications, excuse me. And I believe Councilmember Smedley has a communication tonight.
Sure, yes, thank you, President Isley. I wasn't sure if it was now or later, but
Go ahead now.
I can go ahead now. Every year in March, it is designated as Developmental Disability Awareness Month. And this means that we focus on people's diverse abilities and celebrate their contributions to their communities. And for those of you who don't know, my day job is working for the Athens County Board of Developmental Disabilities. And we have a series of events happening this year. You know, normally and under normal circumstances, we have a number of in-person gatherings, like a march on Court Street, to build awareness, and the festival at the community center, which is a really fun sort of reunion feeling to it. So in future years, I would certainly advocate you attend that if you haven't in the past. But of course, this year it's different. It's going to be all virtual. And the mayor every year will declare it DD Awareness Month for the city of Athens. And he's doing that again graciously. We appreciate that for this year. And we're doing it virtually again. All of our events this year, as I mentioned, will be virtual. So he'll be doing that on Wednesday during his press conference at 3 p.m. And so I'd welcome you all to tune in. They can you can watch it on the government channel or live streamed on Facebook. We'll have a few friends with us that day, along with the mayor, to make this declaration and talk about some of the other events that we have going on for this month. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other communications from other council members? If not, we'll move on to communications from other elected officials. Law Director Eliason.
No.
Okay. and Auditor Hecht.
No report.
Okay, Mayor Patterson.
Thank you, President Isley, and thank you, Councilmember Smedley. The theme this year, I was hoping you'd get to the theme too, but it is healthy you, healthy me, healthy community. So you'll be hearing that on Wednesday if you tune in. I just have a few items tonight, President Isley. Number one, the City of Athens is a member of the Power a Clean Future Ohio. We've been recognized as a community that has been doing quite a bit in the world of reducing our carbon footprint. And so they have a program this year, and it is basically offering cities and local governments the opportunity to participate in equity coaching for sustainable cities program. I've asked the Deputy Service Safety Director, Andrew Chickey, to apply to see if the city could be one selected municipality. And what that includes is 4 hours of equity coaching for city staff and community members or organizations, up to 8 people. So we're identifying, if we're successful, who those individuals would be. Fully funded greenhouse gas inventory and fleet inventory, expert policy recommendations and technical assistance, and personal and professional development for our staff. And again, it's making sure as we continue doing the hard work that we are all doing in racial equity, this fits in line with that, with a city that's sustainable to where we don't further impact community members who might not be able to afford or get access to solar, residential solar, and things of that nature. So just giving council a heads up on that. The Engineering and Public Works did put in a guardrail on Dairy Lane. They recently completed that. I believe it was a week ago. It was on February 19th that a new guardrail, crash rail, was put up right there near the street or the road that goes on up to the Ridges / the Child Development Center on the Ridges campus. And then the last announcement that I want to share with council is that under the Ohio Mayor's Alliance, I have been selected to serve on a new committee called the Educational Advocacy Leadership Committee, alongside the mayor of Dublin, the mayor of Akron, the mayor of Elyria and Lakewood, on all things educational leadership. So that's all I have to share tonight, President Isley.
Thank you. All right. We'll move on now to ordinances for third reading. Ordinance 1221 is an ordinance authorizing unneeded or obsolete municipal personal property to be sold by internet auction and is introduced by Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Isley. I'd like to make a motion to approve 01221.
And we have a second from Councilmember Katsas.
Thank you. As discussed, this is an annual ordinance authorizing the city to sell by internet auction unneeded or obsolete municipal property. Thank you, President Isley.
Okay. Any comments or questions from council members or administration or our attendees tonight? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. We'll move on to Ordinance 1321, which is an ordinance amending the 2021 staffing levels authorized by Ordinance 14120. This is introduced by Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Isley. I'd like to make a motion to approve 01321.
Okay. And we have a second from Councilmember Fall.
This is a very simple fix of a clerical error. We had a position within the recreation department that had the wrong percentages coming from two different funds. So instead of 75% from 271, it should be 25% from 271. And instead of 25% from 270, it should be 75% from 270. Thank you, President Isley.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from council, administration, our attendees? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 1721 is an ordinance granting a special right-of-way permit to the University Estates Homeowners Association to allow a guardhouse structure on University Estates Boulevard at the State Route 682 entrance and is introduced by Councilmember Fall.
Thank you. I move that we adopt 1721.
Second.
Thank you. This is an infrastructure guard facility to help protect the infrastructure that's in that island from being run over by various vehicles or anything. So it protects infrastructure there. We've talked about it. So thank you.
Okay. We have motion and second. Do we have any comments or questions from council, administration, or attendees? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks. We now have 5 ordinances for second reading, and I will read the title. I will pause briefly to see if there might be any comments or questions about them, but I don't believe we're suspending on any of these tonight, so it will just be a second reading. Ordinance 1921 is an ordinance amending Ordinance 6320, construction and construction engineering of the Stimson Avenue Improvements Project number 315. It is introduced by Councilmember Crowell. If no comments or questions, we will move on to Ordinance 2021. This is an ordinance to advance funds from the general fund to the parking garage fund and amending the 2021 appropriation ordinance. If no comments or questions, I will move on to 2321, and this is an ordinance amending Ordinance 1/2020, authorizing the Arts West fiber optic broadband project number 334, introduced by Councilmember Grace. And if no comments or questions, I'll move on to Ordinance 2421. This is an ordinance authorizing the design and installation of a generator to serve both the city building and the law administration building. And this is project number 336, introduced by Councilmember Grace. If no comments or questions, our last reading, our last ordinance for second reading is 2521. This is an ordinance authorizing a contract with the Washington County Commissioners and declaring an emergency, and is introduced by Councilmember Grace. We now have ordinances for first reading. 2621 is an ordinance providing for the issuance of $290,000 of notes by the City of Athens, Ohio, in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of renewing notes previously issued to pay part of the costs of acquiring new parking meters and declaring an emergency. And this is introduced by Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Isley. This ordinance is some financial bookkeeping that we need to do to pay or to help pay for our new parking meters. This ordinance discusses that the Hocking Valley Bank has agreed to purchase the notes upon the terms in the ordinance. Again, this project of the new parking meters, the notes are about to mature and need to be renewed in that principal amount of $290,000. I don't need to read the rest of this ordinance. Are there any questions? Thank you, President Lansley.
Okay. We'll move on to Ordinance 2721. This is an ordinance amending Ordinance 2920 to increase the authorized expenditure for the Richland Avenue Pedestrian Passageway, project number 311, and is introduced by Councilmember Kotsis.
President Nicely, thank you. And we have had discussion on this. I do want to mention that at committee, I did misspeak as the $13,000 handrail. I thought that that was separate from the additional $60,000 that was being requested. As the ordinance came through, Debbie Walker did correct me, and I want to just correct that publicly, that the total amount being requested to change on this project is $59,156. I will remind everyone that this was a multi-year project that was very complex, and additionally, with my conversations with Acting Director Jessica Dine, they have installed additional processes in order to catch anything like this from ever happening again. Thank you.
Okay. If no questions or comments, we'll move on to Ordinance 2821. This is an ordinance creating the Union Street Downtown Redevelopment District in the city of Athens, declaring the improvement to certain parcels of real property to be a public purpose and exempt from taxation, requiring the owners of the parcels to make service payments in lieu of taxes, specifying the plan for using service payments to promote economic development and job creation, authorizing the execution of an economic development plan, and establishing a fund for the deposit of such service payments, and is introduced by all members of council, but I believe our Planning and Development Council Chair, Fall, will speak to this.
Thank you. That's probably the longest title for almost any of them. We had our public hearing about this evening, and we had a good review of what that program is about and how it will go forward, and when we should expect some of the benefits from occurring in the future and such. Is there any questions that anybody thought of as we were talking about other things? So.
Okay, thanks. Ordinance 2921 is an ordinance amending certain sections of the Athens City Code to provide language consistency, introduced by Councilmember Fall.
Thank you. This was brought forward by the mayor to update sections of the code to make very inclusive language, Black Lives Matter, and those sort of issues that have come up forward. Reviewing code is intensive and can take quite a bit of time. And so I appreciate Mayor doing this, because some of our code is rather old, and updating it is always necessary. So thank you.
Okay.
Questions? Mayor, do you want to say anything?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ordinance 3021 is an ordinance amending Athens City Code Title III, Administrative Provisions, sections 3.07.41, 3.07.42, and 3.07.43 of the Athens Recreation Program Advisory Committee, introduced by Councilmember Fall.
Great, thank you. This was brought forward by the administration to help make the various board members and their time of office logical across all the boards, ensuring also that the board won't all of a sudden have people who are all off of it and all the institutional knowledge goes away. The other two ones are the other mayor-appointed commissions that this will also do. Thank you. Mayor, do you want to say something?
Question from Councilmember Clodfelter.
Just a comment. I think this is a good idea. I'm not opposed to it at all, but the name of that advisory board for a few years now has been the Arts, Parks, and Recreation Advisory Board. And so if we're updating this information about the terms of service, perhaps we could also update the name.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Abby's looking at me. Thank you.
We'll see. Okay.
I should say Beth is our liaison with that. So, thank you.
Okay, and I think we have a
Somebody else that had,
we have
yeah.
a question from Alan Swank, Mr. Alan Swank. And he would like to speak about this. So, Mr. Swank, yes, if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment, if you could identify your name and address, and if you represent a group.
Yes, my name is Alan Swank. I live at 40 Townsend Place, and I am the chair of the aforementioned Arts, Parks, and Recreation Advisory Board. Beth beat me to the punch on that one, and I wholeheartedly agree. Right now, there is no mention of arts or parks in this ordinance, and I think to be consistent with the name of the department, which is Arts, Parks, and Recreation Department, those would be good changes to make. Second thing I would throw out for the consideration of council is making the terms start on January 1 of each year. Right now, we have terms starting all over the place. And consequently, when we bring a new board member on, we are repeatedly doing an onboarding process where if all of these terms began at the beginning of the year, it would really help out in the training and assist us in helping these folks become acclimated to the duties and responsibilities of the advisory boards as quickly as possible. So I would throw that out there for your consideration also this evening as we're cleaning up the language and making it more logical. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And a question to the law director and to clerk of council. So for the potential change for the Athens recreation program, if we're amenable to and the mayor is also to making that arts, parks, and recreation, is that a clerical kind of question, or is that going to require an amendment? So it will require an amendment. So at the second reading, perhaps what we can do is take the time to correct that, then to also consult with the mayor about the terms of office that Mr. Swank mentioned. And we'll get both of those amendments so that when it's read for the second
I think we need also, I think that's the, and then on the second reading, it would go back to first reading.
Correct, exactly.
I think that one of the things we need to look carefully at having everybody start on the same day, because that could lead to having everybody leave on the same day. So it's that needs to be looked at, definitely.
Yeah, and we have talked about those staggered terms. So thanks for the comments, everyone, and we'll come back and probably likely have some amendments to propose at that second reading. Thank you. Ordinance 3121 is an ordinance amending Athens City Code Title III, Administrative Provisions, Section 3.07.50, Establishment of the Athens Municipal Arts Commission, and this is introduced by Councilmember Fall.
Great, thank you. It's the same issue with this. It will be, since these are administrative commissions, I will look to the leadership of the mayor because he's the one who brought this forward when reviewing the language of the code that he has been doing in his massive amounts of spare time. So we can discuss it further, but I think there still is an issue of a universal start date. Thank you.
Okay. And if no questions or comments, we'll move on to 3221. And this is an ordinance amending Athens City Code Title 33, Shade Tree Commission, Section 33.01.01, Commission Membership, and is introduced by Councilmember Fall.
Same thing with the Shade Tree Commission. It's making logical the various terms of the members. So, thank you.
And we have a question or a comment from Councilmember Clodfelter.
Similar to my last comment, I would suggest for consideration that we might want to consider changing the name of the Shade Tree Commission to simply the Athens Tree Commission, because from my understanding of the work of that commission, they don't just work with shade trees. And if this is a rather rare moment in which we're updating things, perhaps we should further clarify things.
That would have to go through David Riggs because there may be requirements for our Tree City USA that we have a certain name of the commission. So,
Okay.
And I think it would also want a recommendation from the Shade Tree Commission members, whether or not they would want to do that.
Okay.
Soliciting their input, but good comment. Thank you. Thank you.
Wait, thank you.
yeah, thank you.
All right. Now we have announcements and other business. The first announcement is that our next council meeting next Monday night will be committees. We do know that finance and personnel needs to meet, but if other committee chairs or city administration know of other committees that need to be placed on the agenda, if you would please inform Clerk of Council Debbie Walker by Wednesday of this week so that we can get the agenda published in time. Next item of business is reappointments to the Income Tax Review Board, and I believe Councilmember Smedley has the motion for the approval on this.
Thank you, President Nisley. I'd like to make a motion that we reappoint former Mayor Rick Abel and Athens Attorney Steve Sloan to serve to continue their service on that board.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second from Councilmember Fall. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Nay. Okay, the motion carries. With many thanks from all of us for all their years of service, because they have served many years. And they work well, I think, with Auditor Hecht. So, yeah, moving this along. We now have a motion to accept the November and December 2020 credit card transactions. If I could have a council member make a motion.
So moved.
Councilmember Reisner moves. Councilmember Crowell seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries, and those credit card transactions have been accepted. And I know that sometimes some of these reports that we need to approve, like these and the minutes and the financial reports, seem, I don't know, ordinary, not mundane, not from the auditor's perspective, because when the auditors, when the hired auditors and the state auditors come in, this is exactly what they're checking for. They check the minutes to see that we've approved all these reports. So that's part of the reason that we're doing this. That is the reason we're doing it. So we make sure it's in the record that we've seen them. Any other announcements? If none, we do have a portion of the meeting always for an opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items and city services that are not covered on the agenda. And I see that we have two persons, Mr. Damon Crane and Mr. Justin Holub. And I will share with you that this is an opportunity for you to make a comment. It's not necessarily for us to answer questions posed or involve in discussion at this point, but it's an opportunity for you to speak. Mr. Crane, if you could state your name and address, and if you represent a group, and then I'll set my timer for 3 minutes, up to 3 minutes.
Thank you. Damon Crane, Hudson Avenue in Athens, just here representing myself tonight. I wanted to support and echo some sentiments expressed by members of council at last week's meeting regarding the University Estates TIF deal. We live in a city with a poverty rate that's 3 to 5 times higher than the national rate, where median household income and the rate of homeownership are both less than half their national levels, in a county which, according to the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, has far and away the absolute worst housing problems in the entire state of Ohio, where, according to the Athens County Foundation, 38% of households are already paying more for housing than they can reasonably afford. Building more expensive homes doesn't help solve any of these problems, and publicly subsidizing the building of some of these homes only makes these problems worse. Because what we're really talking about here is simply helping affluent people buy nicer homes at public expense. At last week's meeting, City Planner Logue said that were it not for this deal, these homes would sell for $400,000. But thanks to this deal, they'll sell for just $240,000. That's a 40% discount for the home buyer, a $160,000 savings. It's a great bargain, but who can afford it? Ever since this deal was first proposed back in 2019, its proponents have been saying that affordable housing is not low-income housing. And last week, Member Fall upped the ante to say affordable housing is not moderate-income housing either. So what exactly is affordable housing? It's not a nebulous concept. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and others, affordable housing is housing, including utilities and taxes, that costs 30% or less of a household's annual gross income. So for one of these $240,000 homes to be affordable, your annual household income should be at least $65,000. That's literally double the median household income in our city. And if you look more closely at income distribution, you find that this deal would benefit only about the top 25% of city households, the most affluent 25% of our community. That's who this 40% discount on housing is for. It's not a 40% discount on anybody's rent. It's not a 40% discount on a first-time down payment or first-time mortgage. It's not going to get anybody out of an overpriced rental and into a home of their own. It's not going to lower the housing costs of the nearly 40% of local households that are already paying more than 30% of their gross incomes on housing. What this deal would do instead is simply enable people who can already afford a $250,000 home to get a nearly $500,000 home instead at nearly half price. And make no mistake, this gift to our most affluent residents comes at public expense. A tax increment financing plan is literally a public subsidy. It trades away tax revenue. It's brokered by handsomely paid city administrators while they're working on the public dime. And it comes at the opportunity cost of everything else council could be working on instead. In all of these ways, this deal is a transfer of city resources and benefits from the struggling majority to the affluent minority. The purpose of an affordable housing commission should be to make housing more affordable for the people who can't afford it, the nearly 40% of our community now paying more than 30% of their gross income on housing. The purpose should not be to squander public resources on making luxury housing more affordable to people who can already afford decent housing. I applaud everyone on council who's begun speaking out against this deal and the backwards orientation of the Affordable Housing Commission that came up with it. I urge you to take the next logical steps, vote to kill this deal, and work to create an affordable housing commission deserving of its name. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Mr. Justin Holub, you wanted to speak? And Mr. Holub, once again, if you could give us your name for the record, also your address, and if you represent a group, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, you're fine.
Okay, great. Thank you. So my name is Justin Holub, and I don't represent anybody right now except myself. I live at 439 East State Street. And the reason I'm contacting in here is because for the past 6 months, we've been experiencing an exorbitant amount of individuals with very, very loud mufflers on their cars and pickup trucks driving down East State Street and throughout town. And I'm not sure if anybody else out there, in virtual land here has experienced this, but I know a bunch of my friends and family members have complained about this situation. And we've exhausted pretty much all avenues. We've called the police, we've called the mayor, we've called numerous other email avenues, things like that. And we don't really seem to be making any headway with removing or at least reducing the level of or amount of cars that are going by with these exorbitant and very, very loud mufflers that will literally wake you up out of your sleep, and they'll shake our windows. We now have a newborn baby, and he wakes up, after they're driving by. And this isn't an isolated incident. This has been going on for the past 6 months, so I don't think it's actually only from the university. I think it's residents in the town. And I do know that there's an ordinance for noise to be lower than a specific decibel for residencies, but I am challenging the committee, or at least maybe some people out there, to write the committee and city council to possibly put an ordinance on the books that will essentially limit the decibel level for mufflers in town. Now, I mean, I don't care if they're on the highway, motorcycles, whatever, that's all good. And, I'm not sitting here like Fred Mertz, sitting at my window waiting for, these people to go by. But it is getting a little bit untenable and basically unsustainable in this situation. So I'm just hoping that, this will make a forum and get people talking. And hopefully the city council will be able to do something about this, because it seems to be just getting worse. And I feel like without anything that's being done over the next couple of weeks or months, it's just not going to get any better. And we're going to be dealing with this, for the next year or so, which is not something that we really want to be doing. So I appreciate your time, and I hope that this can get the discussion going for at least putting something on the books, to getting an ordinance put on where we can actually get the decibel level for cars and pickup trucks in city limits down to a specific level that, and if not, it can be fined. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks for waiting and making the comments tonight, and we will check. All right. Thank you all for being here. If we have no other persons who are interested in speaking at this point, I would entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting. So moved by Councilmember Fall, seconded by Councilmember Crowell. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you very much. And council members, you'll have one more connection to meet up with